Do you need help with marketing, new clients, or online reviews? Massage Book is your solution, streamlining all the challenging aspects of your massage therapy practice. This powerful software simplifies scheduling, payments, and marketing, allowing you to focus on what you do best, helping clients live better. Plus, sign up now with code ABMP50 and get $50 off after your free 30-day trial. Visit massagebook.com, create an account, and transform your practice today. That's Massage Book with code ABMP50 for $50 off. Don't wait. Give it a shot today. Calling all anatomy lovers. Embody U's 6-day hands-on fresh tissue cadaver dissection is back. Join founders Ann Teachworth and Allison Wesley in an exploration of what you're really made of. What makes the Embody U dissection lab so special? Explore tissue textures and layers through hands-on dissection, then integrate those insights into your own body with movement embodiments. The lab is held at the Institute for Anatomical Research in Colorado Springs. Get $200 off with code EMBODYABMP. Visit embodyu.net. That's embody, the letter U.net.
A friend of mine once told me that if you find yourself at a conference or a party or a gathering of nearly any kind, and you bump into someone you know, but you don't remember too many details about them, the first thing you should say is, "Hi, it's so nice to see you again." And then immediately follow up with the second thing, which is, "How is your back?" Why? Because most likely, whoever this person is suffering from back pain. Why? Because humans are human and backs are complicated. The back of a human being, in very simple terms, consists of a spinal cord, a spine, some ribs, and a lot of muscles and connective tissue. In and of themselves, there are many of each of these, and they all have incredibly important jobs. The spinal cord is a compilation of around a couple 100 million neurons, making their way into an organized 31 pairs of spinal nerves. The spine is a column of 33 bones carefully shaped to encircle the spinal cord, allow those 31 nerve pairs to pass through, and stack on top of each other so that it is both sturdy and flexible. The ribs are an extension of those 12 middle vertebrae, reaching out in both directions because, the heart and lungs are kind of important. The muscles range anywhere from little tiny spindles holding each vertebrae pair together to large slabs puppeteering a lot of various movements. And the connective tissue is, connective tissue. Tendons, ligaments, intervertebral discs, all trying to support this crazy thing we call a back. All of this sits atop the pelvis, which, as is the nature of things, needs to be stable. There is a saying in bodywork, and probably all of engineering, that goes, more stability equals less flexibility, and vice versa. More flexibility equals less stability. So this incredibly flexible, complex back needs a strong, stable foundation, which is exactly what the pelvis provides. There are technically 8 bones that form the pelvis, but most of them are fused together, and the ones that are not are bound together so tightly with ligaments and cartilage that there is very little room for movement. This base, and the main slightly moving joint that lives here, is so important and such a key element when it comes to back pain that it is the focus of today's episode. The sacroiliac joint. More familiarly known as the SI joint, this is the point where the back meets the hips, the spine meets the behind, the chaos meets the rock. Formally, it is where the sacrum meets the ilium. The articulation of these two bones is crucial as there is a lot of articulating happening here. Not so much articulation like two bones joining together and allowing movement, more articulation like as in chatting, blathering, jabbering, communication. Both from the spine down and from the legs and hips up. In both directions, information about movement and force and load gets transferred across the SI joint and delivered to the muscles and bones and connective tissue on the other side. So gravity pulling down on the vertebrae will be transmitted to the hips and into the legs, and conversely, force and movement occurring through the legs and the hips will be conveyed to the spine and up. It is, quite possibly, the most popular gossip fence in the human body. But before we start gossiping, let's take a good look at the regions of land involved in the fence itself. Like two properties sharing a border, the sacrum and the ilium nudge up against each other. The sacrum, a fusion of 5 vertebrae, sits like an upside-down triangle wedged in between the two iliums. It starts wide at the top where it supports L5 and tapers down where it hangs onto the coccyx. It is worth mentioning these two other joints at the superior and inferior aspects of the sacrum. Bringing these to center stage for a quick minute, the lumbar sacral joint is the meeting of L5 and S1. Similar to most other joints in the vertebral column, it is a symphysis joint anteriorly, where the bodies of these bones meet. It is a facet joint more laterally and posteriorly at the articulating facets, and it sandwiches an intervertebral disc. The sacrococcygeal joint, at the tail end of the sacrum, is considered a symphysis joint. Lined with hyaline cartilage, it is slightly moving, but only passively and only into flexion and extension. And really, it only moves during childbirth and defecation. Mostly, it is well known among snowboarders who often break it when they fall and then hope their defecation process thereafter isn't too messed up. The fence itself, the SI joint, is where all the chatting happens. This is where the sacrum nestles itself right against the ilium and settles in for a good gossip session. Its architecture and support system are made for communication. The lateral aspects of the sacrum fit neatly with the two medial surfaces of the ilium, and all 4 of these areas are called auricular surfaces because they look like ears. Shaped like a body part that is designed for listening? Coincidence? I think not. The way in which they communicate is the part I find most fascinating. They don't just yell at each other. Yelling never works. There is a nuance to their chatter. The auricular surface of the ilium is irregular, convexly shaped and lined with fibrocartilage, while the correlating surface of the sacrum is reciprocally irregular, concave in its formation, and lined with hyaline cartilage. So they are different, but the same. This is fundamental to smooth conversation. Also, there is more than just one line of communication open. The SI joint does not fit conveniently into one category. It is considered both a syndesmosis joint and a synovial joint. Insert record needle scratching on vinyl album noise here. Yep, it is both a fibrous syndesmosis and a freely moving synovial joint. So the anterior aspect of the SI joint is considered synovial. Like all other freely moving joints in the body, it comes complete with articular cartilage, which is a kind of hyaline cartilage, synovial fluid, a joint capsule, and ligaments that serve to reinforce that joint capsule. While the posterior SI joint is considered a syndesmosis, meaning that here, similar to other fibrous joints in the body, there are 2 parallel bones connected with an interosseous membrane and held together with strong fibrous ligaments, ensuring very little to no movement. Basically, it has evolved to both be stable and allow for little movement, be both soft-spoken and speak with conviction, be both the speaker and the audience. Which is pretty incredible. With force and movement coming up through the legs and hips, the spine has a lot to listen to. And with gravity weighing down on the spine, the hips need to be very attentive. And with all of this conveying of information, a good support system is essential. Enter ligaments. The body's version of rebar. Not that a neighborhood gossip fence needs rebar, but when the fence is trying to manage high volumes of expression, a little ligamentous rebar, or rebargaments, as I like to call them, is a good thing. The ligaments here are many, and like most other ligaments in the body, they are named conveniently for the parts they are connecting. As I mentioned, the anterior SI joint has a synovial joint capsule that is reinforced with ligaments. If you look at it though, it looks more like a broad flat sheet. That's because it is, in actuality, a whole bunch of thin collagenous strands lining up and spanning out. Adding to the wing effect that already exists here in the pelvis, the strands are closer together at the sacrum and then fan out as it grabs onto the ilium. Kind of like a net ready to catch it as it tilts anteriorly. Posteriorly, though, it's a different scene. There is that same net-like flat ligament reaching from the bony protrusions of the lateral sacrum to the bony protrusions of the medial ilium, but they're a lot stronger than their anterior counterpart. Not only that, They are also backed by a group of accessory ligaments because holding things up against gravity requires a lot of extra rebar. These ligaments, the sacrotuberous ligament extending from the sacrum to the ischial tuberosity, and the sacrospinous ligament spanning from the sacrum to the ischial spine, are like powerhouses that are constantly working to prevent the sacrum from falling forward. If you think about what your back muscles feel like after a day of bending over and doing one of the 9 million things that require humans to bend forward as opposed to backwards, you can only imagine what this feels like to these ligaments trying to keep the sacrum in place. They also serve as attachment sites for the hamstrings and the gluteus maximus, and some would argue that the iliolumbar ligament, which is already trying to manage the lumbar spine, lends a hand when needed. These are some serious rebargaments. So what exactly is all the gossip about anyway? Well, muscles aren't cheating on each other or anything like that, so no need to brace yourself for impact. The hips are just trying to tell the back what the legs are doing, and the sacrum is relaying information to the hips about how the back is hanging in there. And the conversation is constant. As gravity weighs its heavy hand on the column of spinal bones, it can shift how the sacrum is wedged into its spot between the two ilium. Technically, its movements are called nutation and counternutation, nutation being when the top of the sacrum moves forward and down, and counternutation being the opposite, when the upper sacrum shifts back and up. As the sacrum is nutating and counternutating, the two ilium on either side are rotating slightly back and forth with what that ilium's respective leg is doing. None of this is happening with a lot of volume, about 3 degrees of flexion and extension, about 1.5 degrees of axial rotation, around 2 to 4 millimeters of combined movement, and about 10 decibels of noise. The rebargaments hold strong to keep that level low and steady. But a funny thing happens when there is even a slight shift beyond normal into any direction here. It's like if one of those fibers found a megaphone and started screaming. And that noise can be heard for anatomical miles. The sacroiliac fence and its influence on back health is quiet but loud. Its ability to fall out of balance, in direction, in rotation, in force capacity, and movement alignment can send an easy conversation into the throes of tension in a heartbeat. Its dysfunction presents as low back pain, numbness, sharp posterior pelvis or groin pain, weakness, instability, frustration, yelling, fighting, throwing things, and sometimes just shutting down entirely. As a hands-on practitioner, your role is one of mediation. Listen to both sides, hear what it is they are trying to say, and figure out how to get the other side to listen. No two entities will get along 100% all of the time, but if they share a fence, the least they can do is continue to listen, even when they feel like yelling. And here we are, the end of the episode. Thank you to the extraordinary crew over at ABMP for helping me get my words into your ears. And if you want to get any of your words into my ears, or more accurately into my brain via my eyeballs from a computer screen, drop me a line at rebelmt@abmp.com. That's rebelmt@abmp.com. I always want to hear your questions, comments, suggestions, or salutations. Also, if you're interested in checking out anything else I'm doing, head over to rebelmassage.com where you will find all sorts of fun things to click on, like homemade organic products for your practice, cool links to continuing education classes, thoughts I have typed up and posted here and there, and other Rebel Massage dabblings.
Anatomy Trains will be holding our flagship Anatomy Trains Structural Integration ATSI training in beautiful Vancouver starting September 16th, 2024. Progressively build your anatomical knowledge, hands-on manual therapy techniques, and most importantly, seeing and understanding postural patterns and developing strategies tailored to individual needs. We warmly invite you to apply today and bring your bodywork career to the next level. Visit anatomytrains.com for more.